Welcome back to Easy English Talk Podcast.
Welcome back to Easy English Talk Podcast, everyone. It's really great to have you here with us today. Priya, hey, how are you doing? How has your day been so far?
Ryan, honestly, it has been a good day. I had a quiet morning, which I really needed. How about you? What have you been up to?
I had a pretty calm morning too, actually. I made some tea, sat outside for a bit, and just enjoyed the quiet before the day got busy. It was a nice way to start.
That sounds really peaceful. I think we both needed that kind of slow start today. It puts you in a good headspace for a real conversation.
It really does. And speaking of real conversations, hello to everyone listening and watching right now. We are so glad you are here with us today.
Yes, welcome, welcome. Whether you are listening on your morning commute, during a walk, or just relaxing at home, we are happy you chose to spend this time with us.
We always love knowing where our listeners are tuning in from. So please drop a comment and tell us, where in the world are you listening from right now? We genuinely love reading those.
It is always so amazing to see comments from so many different countries. It reminds us that English really does connect people all over the world, and that is something special.
And while you are in the comments, we would also love to hear from you about the podcast itself. Is Easy English Talk Podcast helping you improve your English? Is it helping you grow as a person?
Your feedback truly matters to us. It helps us make the podcast better for you, and it also motivates us to keep going. So please share your thoughts. We read every single comment.
Today, we are discussing the simple habits that improve every relationship. And I want to say right away, this topic is one that will genuinely help you in your daily life.
That is so true. Whether it is your relationship with a partner, a friend, a coworker, or a family member, what we talk about today applies to all of it.
And here's why this episode is worth staying for until the very end. Most people struggle in relationships not because they are bad people, but because nobody ever taught them these small, simple habits.
Exactly. These are not big, dramatic changes. They are small, daily things you can start doing today that slowly but powerfully change how people feel around you.
So if you have ever felt misunderstood, or like your relationships are not as close as you want them to be, this conversation is for you. Stay with us because we are going to walk through this together, step by step.
And we'll keep the language simple and clear the whole way through. So whether you are here to improve your English or improve your relationships, or both, you are in the right place.
Let's start by talking about the problem first. Because before we can talk about solutions, we have to understand what is actually going wrong in most relationships.
That is such an important starting point. And honestly, when you look closely at why relationships fall apart or feel distant, it usually comes down to one thing. People stop paying attention to the small things.
Yes, and I think that is something most people can relate to. When a relationship is new, everyone is very careful and thoughtful. You listen closely, you ask questions, you show up on time, you say kind things.
But after a while, that careful attention fades. Not because people stop caring, but because life gets busy, and relationships start to feel comfortable, and we begin to take each other for granted.
That phrase, taking someone for granted, is really at the heart of most relationship problems. We assume the other person knows we care, so we stop showing it as often.
And the other person slowly starts to feel unseen or unimportant, not because anything dramatic happened, but because the small daily signs of care just disappeared over time.
And what makes this even harder is that most people do not say anything when they start to feel this way. They just quietly pull back, become a little cooler, a little more distant.
And then the other person notices that distance, but does not understand why it is happening. So now both people feel disconnected, and neither one really knows how it got to this point.
That slow drift, that quiet growing apart, is probably the most common relationship problem there is. And it happens in friendships, in families, in romantic relationships, in workplaces, everywhere.
It really does. And the sad thing is that most of the time, it is completely preventable. It does not take grand gestures or long emotional conversations to stop it from happening.
So the question is, what does it take? And the answer, as we are going to talk about today, is simple daily habits. Small, consistent actions that tell the people around you that they matter.
And once you start practicing these habits, you will be surprised how quickly things change, how people start to open up more, trust you more, and feel closer to you.
Let's talk about the first habit. And it is one that sounds so simple that people often underestimate it. The habit is give your full attention when someone is talking to you.
This one sounds obvious, right? But think about how rarely it actually happens. When someone is talking to you, how often are you also checking your phone, thinking about something else, or planning what you are going to say next?
And honestly, most of us do this without even realizing it. We are physically present, but mentally we are somewhere else completely. And the other person can feel that, even if they do not say so.
There's actually a word for this in modern psychology. It is called being present. And being truly present with someone is one of the most powerful gifts you can give them.
It tells them that right now, in this moment, you are the most important thing. Not my phone, not my thoughts, not whatever is happening later. Just you.
And people remember how you make them feel. When you give someone your full attention, they leave that conversation feeling valued, respected, and genuinely heard. That feeling builds trust over time.
So, what does full attention actually look like in practice? It means putting your phone face down or away. It means making natural eye contact. It means nodding and responding in a way that shows you are following what they are saying.
It also means not jumping in to share your own story the second they finish talking. Give their words a moment to land before you respond. That small pause shows that you actually listened and are thinking about what they said.
That is such a good point. So many conversations feel like two people just waiting for their turn to talk. Real listening is different. It is about genuinely understanding what the other person is sharing.
And here's the thing. When you're a good listener, people naturally want to talk to you more. They feel safe with you. That feeling of safety is the foundation of any strong relationship.
The second habit is closely connected to listening, and that is asking better questions. Not just polite questions, but questions that show you are genuinely curious about the other person.
Most conversations stay at the surface level. How are you? Fine, thanks. How was your day? Good. Busy. And then the conversation just stops there, and nothing real was shared.
But if you ask a slightly deeper question, something like, what was the best part of your day? Or, is there something on your mind lately? The whole tone of the conversation changes.
Suddenly, the other person feels like you actually want to know them, not just exchange small talk. And that feeling, the feeling of being truly asked about, is something people deeply crave.
It is important to say that these do not have to be deep philosophical questions. It is really just about going one level deeper than the usual surface questions. Small, genuine curiosity goes a very long way.
And it also shows that you remember things about the person. If a friend mentioned last week that they were nervous about a job interview, and you ask this week, hey, how did that interview go? That means everything to them.
Because it tells them that you were listening before, that what they shared stayed with you, that they are not just someone you talk to out of habit, but someone you actually care about.
This is one of those habits that transforms relationships slowly but deeply. People begin to see you as someone who truly values them, and that changes how they see the entire relationship.
And here's a small tip. If you find it hard to ask deeper questions, just practice with one question per conversation. One real question. That is all it takes to start shifting things.
One genuine question every time you talk to someone. Over weeks and months, that adds up to a completely different kind of relationship than what most people have.
Let's move to the third habit. And this one surprises a lot of people because it feels so small. The habit is say thank you more often, and say it with meaning.
Gratitude is one of those things that everyone agrees is important, but very few people actually practice consistently. We appreciate the people around us, we just forget to say it out loud.
And there's a big difference between feeling grateful and expressing it. Feelings that stay inside do not help the relationship. The other person can't read your mind.
When you say thank you to someone, not a quick, automatic thank you, but a real, specific one, it changes the energy of the relationship. It makes the other person feel seen for what they contribute.
For example, instead of just saying thanks, you could say, I really appreciate how you stayed calm when I was stressed today. It helped me a lot. That specificity makes the thank you feel genuine.
And when people feel genuinely appreciated, they want to give more. They feel motivated to continue being kind, helpful, and present in the relationship. Gratitude actually creates more of what you are grateful for.
This works in every kind of relationship. With a partner, saying, I noticed how hard you have been working lately, and I want you to know I appreciate it. lands very differently than silence.
In friendships, in families, even in professional relationships, people who express gratitude regularly are seen as warmer, more trustworthy, and easier to be around. It changes how people perceive you.
And it also changes how you feel. When you practice noticing and naming what you appreciate, you start to see more good in the people around you. Your whole perspective on the relationship shifts.
It is one of those habits where both people benefit, the person receiving the thanks and the person giving it. It is genuinely a win for everyone involved.
Now, let's talk about a habit that is a little harder for most people, and that is learning to apologize properly when you have done something wrong.
Oh, this is such an important one. And so many relationships carry old pain simply because one person could not bring themselves to say a real, honest sorry.
Most people either avoid apologizing altogether or they give a non-apology. Something like, "I'm sorry you feel that way," which is not actually taking any responsibility at all.
A real apology has a few key parts. First, you name what you did. Second, you acknowledge how it affected the other person. And third, you commit to doing better, not as a performance, but as a genuine intention.
Something like, "I was short with you yesterday, and I know that hurt. I was stressed, but that is not an excuse. I am sorry, and I will be more careful about how I speak to you."
That kind of apology does something powerful. It closes the wound instead of leaving it open. The other person feels heard, respected, and valued enough for you to take responsibility.
And here's something important. A good apology does not include but. As soon as you say, "I'm sorry, but," you have canceled the apology. The but makes it about your reasons, not their feelings.
That is such a practical point. "I'm sorry, but I was tired" shifts the focus away from the impact and onto your excuse. A clean apology without but is so much more powerful and healing.
And on the other side, being able to accept an apology graciously is also a skill. Not holding it over someone forever, not bringing it up every argument. Accepting and moving forward is just as important.
Relationships that last are not the ones where nobody ever makes mistakes. They're the ones where both people know how to repair things when something goes wrong. That ability to repair is everything.
The fifth habit is one that I think gets overlooked in long-term relationships especially, and that is showing up consistently, not just during the big moments.
This is so true. People remember the big gestures, the birthday surprises, the grand romantic moments, the times someone showed up during a crisis. But what actually builds deep trust is consistency in the small things. Showing up consistently means calling when you said you would call, remembering the things that matter to the other person, being reliable in the everyday, ordinary moments of life.
Because here is what happens when someone is inconsistent. You never know what version of them you are going to get. One week they are warm and attentive, the next week they are distant and distracted. That unpredictability creates anxiety. And when you feel anxious in a relationship, you can never fully relax into it. You are always a little on guard, waiting to see if the good version or the difficult version will show up today.
But when someone is consistently kind, consistently present, consistently reliable, even in small ways, you feel safe. You stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. You can actually trust them.
And trust, once built through consistency, becomes the strongest foundation any relationship can have. It is very hard to break something that has been built carefully over a long period of time.
Consistency does not mean being perfect every single day. It means that even when life is hard, you still make the effort. You still send the message. You still check in. You still show up in whatever small way you can.
And the people who receive that kind of consistent care, they notice. Even if they never say it directly, they feel it. And that feeling shapes the entire relationship in the most positive way.
So ask yourself, are you someone people can count on in the small moments? Because that is where relationships are truly built. Not in the big events, but in the quiet, everyday choices.
Let's talk about another habit that is deeply important but rarely discussed. And that is learning to manage your own emotions before they damage the relationship.
This is a big one, because the truth is we all have moments when we are stressed, frustrated, or overwhelmed. And in those moments, the people closest to us often become the ones we take it out on.
It is almost like the safer someone feels to us, the more freely we let our difficult emotions spill onto them. Which is a little backwards when you think about it. We treat strangers more carefully than the people we love.
And the reason this happens is that with close relationships, we feel comfortable enough to drop our guard. But comfortable should not mean that the other person becomes your emotional punching bag.
So the habit here is learning to pause before you react. When you feel yourself getting angry, irritated, or overwhelmed, take a breath. Give yourself a moment before you say or do something you will regret.
That pause might look like saying, I need a few minutes to think before we continue this conversation, or simply taking a deep breath and counting slowly before responding. Small tools, but they work.
And what this habit builds over time is self-regulation, the ability to feel a strong emotion without immediately acting on it. That skill protects relationships from a lot of unnecessary damage.
It also shows the other person that you respect them enough to manage yourself, that you are not going to make them suffer just because you are having a hard day. That is a form of care.
And over time, when both people in a relationship practice this, conversations become calmer and safer. Difficult topics can be discussed without everything turning into an argument.
That kind of emotional safety is what allows real honesty to happen in a relationship. When people do not fear being attacked for what they say, they feel free to actually share what is true for them.
Now, let's discuss a habit that is all about how we speak, and that is choosing kind words even in difficult conversations.
Words are incredibly powerful, and in relationships, how we say something often matters just as much as, sometimes more than, what we are saying.
You can share the same truth in 10 different ways. Some ways will make the other person feel respected and open to listening. Other ways will make them feel attacked and immediately defensive.
For example, there is a big difference between saying, "You never listen to me," and saying, "I feel like I am not being heard, and that is hard for me." One blames, the other shares.
When we blame, the other person's first reaction is to defend themselves. But when we share how we feel without making it an attack, the other person is much more likely to actually hear us and respond with care.
This is sometimes called using I statements instead of you statements. And it sounds like a simple technique, but when you practice it, it genuinely changes the quality of difficult conversations.
Instead of, "You always do this," try, "I feel frustrated when this happens." Instead of, "You never make time for me," try, "I would love to spend more time together." Small shifts, but they make a real difference.
And it is also about tone. The same words said warmly versus coldly land very differently. Sometimes it is not what you said, it is the way your voice sounded when you said it.
So part of this habit is becoming more aware of your tone, especially when you are tired or stressed, because that's when our voices go cold and sharp without us even noticing.
Choosing kind words and a warm tone, even in disagreement, is one of the most powerful ways to show someone that even when things are hard, you still value the relationship enough to speak carefully.
There is one more habit I want to make sure we cover, and this is one that ties everything together, and that is being honest, even when honesty feels uncomfortable.
Honesty is the soul of any real relationship. Without it, everything else is just performance. You can be kind, attentive, and grateful, but if you are not honest, the relationship is built on a fragile surface.
And when we say honesty, we do not mean brutal honesty, where you say everything you think without any care for the other person. That is not honesty. That is just unkindness with a good excuse.
Real honesty is thoughtful. It is saying what is true for you in a way that respects the other person. It means sharing your real feelings, your real needs, your real concerns, instead of hiding them to keep the peace.
A lot of people avoid honesty because they are afraid of conflict. They think if they stay quiet, things will be fine. But unspoken truths do not disappear. They just build up slowly until one day the weight becomes too much.
And then what happens? A small argument about something ordinary suddenly carries the weight of every unspoken frustration from the past year. Both people are confused about why it feels so intense.
That is why small, regular honesty is so much healthier than big, occasional explosions. Saying, "Hey, this bothered me a little," in the moment, prevents it from becoming, "I have been carrying this for months."
And real honesty also includes being honest about positive things. Telling someone what you genuinely appreciate about them, what you admire, what you are grateful for. That kind of honesty is a gift.
People often think of honesty as only the difficult conversations. But honesty in the positive direction, being genuine with your warmth, your admiration, your love, is just as important and just as powerful.
When you are consistently honest in a relationship, something beautiful happens. Both people stop guessing. They stop worrying. They start to trust that what they see is real, and that trust is priceless.
We have covered a lot of ground today, and I want to touch on one final idea before we wrap up, and that is understanding that these habits only work when they are mutual.
That is such an important point. These habits are not strategies for fixing the other person or winning arguments. They are ways of showing up better for yourself and for the relationship.
And yes, ideally, both people in a relationship grow and practice these habits together. But even if only one person starts, it often slowly influences the other. Kindness tends to create more kindness.
That does not mean you should accept a relationship that is consistently one-sided or unhealthy. These habits deserve to be met with effort from both sides eventually. But one person starting is always better than nobody starting.
And here's something worth remembering. You do not need to be perfect at these habits to benefit from them. You just need to be consistent and sincere. Progress matters more than perfection.
Every relationship has hard days, misunderstandings, and moments of distance. What separates strong relationships from weak ones is not the absence of those moments. It's how people respond to them.
Do they repair, or do they let things drift? Do they speak kindly when it is hard, or do they go cold? Do they show up even on ordinary days, or only when they need something? Those choices define the relationship.
And what we've talked about today, these simple habits, are the tools that help you make those choices well. Not occasionally, but consistently. Not when it is easy, but especially when it is hard.
All right, let's bring everything together. We talked about giving your full attention when someone speaks to you. We talked about asking better, more genuine questions that go deeper than small talk.
We covered expressing gratitude with real specificity. We discussed how to apologize properly, without the but, and how to accept apologies graciously to allow repair.
We explored the power of showing up consistently in the small moments, not just the big ones. And we talked about managing your emotions so that the people you love do not carry the weight of your hard days.
We also talked about choosing kind words and a warm tone, using I statements in difficult conversations. And finally, we talked about the importance of honest, thoughtful communication, both in the hard moments and the beautiful ones.
Each of these habits is simple on its own, but when you practice them together, regularly and sincerely, they create something that most people spend their whole lives looking for: relationships that feel safe, deep, real, and lasting.
And the beautiful thing is that you can start today. Not tomorrow, not after something changes. Right now. In the next conversation you have, you can make a small, different choice. That is all it takes to begin.
To everyone listening, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We genuinely hope this episode gave you something real and useful that you can carry with you beyond just this conversation.
And if you are also here to improve your English, we hope the way we speak on this podcast makes that journey a little easier and a little more enjoyable for you. That is always our goal.
If this episode connected with you, please leave us a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode of Easy English Talk Podcast.
And if you want to keep growing in your English and in your life, we have so many other episodes waiting for you on the Easy English Talk Podcast channel. Each one is designed to help you think, speak, and connect better.
Thank you for listening. Take care of the people in your life. Take care of yourself, and we will see you in the next one.
See you soon. Bye for now.